Welcome to the HMO Property Podcast, where we connect, educate, and inspire the UK's HMO property community. So stop what you're doing, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. What's up, HMO Nation, and welcome to another episode of the HMO Property Podcast. In this episode, we're interviewing successful HMO property investors, Staniforth and Naomi Hyett. Now, they've been investing in HMOs for some 6 months now, and they're going to take us on their journey, including the ups, the downs, the highs, and the lows. They haven't actually completed a project yet, but they've had one fantastic and interesting HMO story so far, including the 3 brilliant deals that they've currently got under contract and in legals. Let's jump straight in. Naomi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Great to see you both. Before we dive into the details of your HMO journey since February, tell us about your background before you got started in property.
Yeah, so our background, we run a brand coaching and strategic marketing consultancy called Empire Consulting, and it was positioned towards thought leaders, so including things like authors, speakers, trainers, coaches, anyone that wants to be positioned as an expert in their field. And that's kind of how we had our introduction into property, because we'd started working with some investors, some developers, and also some property trainers.
Yeah.
Got it. But what about before property, like before you knew anything about HMO investment? Was that your sole gig, both of you?
No, we did the standard boring 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
That's what we want to know. What were you doing before you had a light bulb moment? What were you up to?
So we both used to work together, and Jay was the marketing director for a company, and I'd come in, expressed interest in marketing because unfortunately nobody was giving me a chance anywhere, and eventually I found the opportunity in this business, and then progressed my way through to marketing executive level. And me and Jay we just got on like a house on fire. We were like unstoppable. We were the dynamic duo of the company, and we had a lot of discussions around what our passions were and what we wanted to do. And Jay was already quite ambitious, and I'll let you talk about that in a second. And it just sparked from there, really. We just kept, the more we spoke about it, the more it was like, what are we doing with our lives? Why are we not just doing this? Our relationship progressed as well. We bought a house together. We moved in, and it was just at that moment really that we were just like, let's just go for it. Let's just do it.
So how many years in the corporate world did you guys do?
I was at senior or director positions for 10 years in marketing. So my role was to go into businesses, work out why they were failing, and then put a marketing strategy in place, grow a team, and take them to a certain level. So I took one company from 200,000 turnover to 3.5 million in just over 4 years. That's the company that Naomi joined. And I trained Naomi directly, and then she took on her own projects within the company, and then it just flourished from there. So Naomi did marketing for 3 years, although 7 years in recruitment before that.
7 years in wonderful the world of recruitment. You can tell why I moved, right?
I'm sure it wasn't a hard decision.
No, not at all. So yeah, the opportunity in the marketing company we worked with, it was a software company, so IT products, sort of like online software. I ended up taking on a project which was an education software, and ended up putting that into 27 different countries. So launching the software product itself, and helping that get up off the ground. So that was good. It was fun. It was good, but we'd had enough, hadn't we? Working with somebody else.
On balance, did you guys enjoy your time in the corporate world?
The corporate world was okay. The last company we worked for, not at all.
No.
It was that pushed us to start our own business and then venture in eventually towards property.
Yeah, it has its benefits, it has its ups and downs. I'm thankful for the opportunity it gave me, but obviously there's a lot of restrictions around what you can do, like personal development and growth, especially when you're working, at the lowest level. It's hard to grow, really. So
yeah.
Great. Guys, let's just focus in on that kind of, I'm not going to say specific light bulb moment, because as ever, it takes place over a period of weeks, months, conversations, which you guys obviously had. Tell us how you guys got started thinking about getting into HMO property specifically.
I can give you a specific time. We were actually sat around a friend's house, and we were talking about our goals and what our future looked like. And they're another couple. They already have a successful property business, huge portfolio, and they started doing training as of November last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were sat around theirs between November, December. I can't remember what date it was, but and they just turned around to us and just asked us one simple question: why the hell are you not doing it now? And we both looked at each other, and I think it was at that moment we were just like, I don't know. And from then onwards, we pushed ourselves forward and just started speaking to them more about getting into property. And I think that was pretty much from there onwards, we decided that we wanted to do it, but we procrastinated quite a lot.
Yeah, we really did.
We were going through a bit of a bad time at that particular time with our previous job. Long story short, that it didn't end in the nicest way, did it?
No.
And it was over Christmas period as well, and I was actually off on work-related stress. So yeah, you can imagine that it wasn't the right time for us at that particular moment. But then we moved into 2019, and then we just thought, what are we doing? We need to seriously pull our fingers out and do it.
Yeah, and that was it. We went full force at that point. We really pulled the stops out and went for it.
Got it. The story you're telling is a familiar one, and I want to ask you one question, because a lot of people feel the same way. And it's, what do you think, before that perfect question from your friends, what was holding you back before then?
Fear, 100% fear. It was fear of unknown.
Yeah, lack of knowledge. It just on the outside, it seems so confusing and difficult. I mean, if I'm honest, the thing that made me scared of getting into investing in property was that I bought 2 or 3 houses in the past for myself, residential, and it was just the most stressful, heart-wrenching, depressing time I can imagine. And I just thought, why would anyone want to do that as a job? It's bad enough buying a house that you're excited to live in, but going through that for a house that someone else is going to live in, why would I do that? So yeah, I think it was lack of knowledge, lack of understanding what it was all about, and just lack of understanding of the process and the reason why people do it. That really stopped us from doing anything with it.
Yeah, and I think it's the risk factor as well, because obviously it's money's involved, and we didn't have any money. And obviously before we had this conversation with our friends, we just assumed that you had to have your own money to buy the property. It was a case of it was too stressful with another full-time job, and all these different things were going on, and we were just like, we'll probably do it at some point. Got
it. So fear and knowledge.
Yeah.
Where did you get the knowledge?
So it actually came from our friends who run something called Real Life Group, and we'd spoken to them previously because of the work we were doing in marketing for them. So we'd picked up in bits of information and kind of knew what to expect at this point. But then when we actually started getting educated by them, the world just became so much clearer.
Yeah.
And it just became possible. Like the what seemed impossible suddenly became possible.
Yeah.
And then you open to a network of people that are all in the same mindset and frame of mind as what you want to be, and it's infectious.
And it's people have a lot of stigmas around property seminars, and I get why. But we went to the real life one, and then we also went to one which is run by Assets for Life.
Yeah.
So Liam Ryan and Jay Munoz, and we actually really enjoyed that as well. Like, they gave us so much content as well, which was a great thing, like loads of agreements and calculators and all this, that and the other, and it broadened our knowledge even more, for us to then take the plunge really and start really getting into it.
Funny thing that happens is when you increase your knowledge, often your fear goes to much lower levels anyway. So the two are typically interlinked.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, tell us, because I know we were talking about it in the preamble to this. Tell us about your first HMO property deal, how it went down, because I know there's a good story to it.
I'll let Naomi tell this story. She was the biggest player in it. So.
Okay, so this does not reflect on us now. Okay, so the first deal that we actually managed to get, funnily enough, we'd spoken with Mark and Tricia about our mentorship. So we actually signed on to their coaching package. We had a phone call with them late in an evening, didn't we?
Yeah, it was.
And we were like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just go for it. So
just to clarify, Mark and Tricia are the real life group.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And we were speaking to Tricia, and she was like, look, honestly, guys, again, this fear was kicking in. We were like, oh, it's money. Oh, God, what we're going to do. And they're like, just go for it. You've got to trust us. So we're like, well, they're really good friends of ours. They're not going to screw us over. And if they do, we know where they live. So, but after doing that phone call and signing up, I was determined. I was literally on a mission, because I was out of my job at this point. I was working on a marketing business.
Pretty motivated then.
Yeah. And
you like that fire underneath you. Suddenly, the steam starts coming out and you start moving.
So we were like, okay, we need to make this work. So the next day, I rang up some agents and I was like, look, I've seen this house. I did the numbers quickly, and I was just like, look, it works. Let's ring them and go for it. Went to go view the property, and I actually got accepted within 48 hours of signing up to the coaching package. And we hadn't even been told when our coaching package was starting. So we were just like,
sirens, panic mode.
We've got a deal, but we don't know what do we do. So we ended up having a lot of phone calls, didn't we? And a lot of conversations back and forth, like, please help us, we don't know what we're doing. And thankfully, because we were supported by the real life, so they've got like an online Facebook community as well, for all the paid members. So the support from them was unbelievable. So any questions we had, we'd fire them in there, but we were in it like 24/7 in this group, like, help us. Fast forward about 12 weeks, I think it was, we had to get planning on this particular HMO because it's in an Article 4 area. So we were converting from a 3-bed to a 5-bed just by doing a simple loft conversion. And there were 4 en suites and 1 off suite. And it's in the centre of Loughborough. It's in the town centre. And anything that could possibly go wrong went wrong.
Tell us.
So
tell us the real deal.
So all guts and glory now. So when we got everything in place, we had our architect, we had our solicitors, we had our build team, we had our project manager, we had everything in place, investors, and then it got to we'd been speaking to our investor for about 4 or 5 weeks. And still nothing was progressing. Now, don't forget, we're very new to this. We're not too sure how certain legalities work and things like that. We'd done all our loan agreements. We'd done all of our NDAs. Everything was done. And it was just like trudging through fudge. It was just like, you just couldn't. And I said to Jay, when one day I got a bit mardy, didn't I? And I was like, Jay, this is not how an investment is supposed to go. I've not done one before, but I know this is not how it's supposed to go. I says, ring him and find out what's going on, and we need an answer today, like what is happening. And he turned around to us and went, yeah, well, you know what, you tell him what he said. What did he say?
Well, he had some doubts because a friend or a colleague of his that doesn't invest in property didn't think that it worked. Property investment worked the way we were saying it worked.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I'm honest, I kind of understand and I get it, because that's what we thought about property investment before we started actually trying to learn the information, because that is the problem. You make decisions based on the knowledge you currently have, but as the common saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. So he was being guided by someone that didn't know what we knew.
Yeah.
And I think because we were new and he knew we were new, I think he sort of went with the person that he thought he had the most trust in, and that clearly wasn't us at the time.
Yeah, which we understand, we get that. But I think because we'd left it with him thinking everything was okay, it really, 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 screwed us over a bit, didn't it, really?
At what point in the transaction did you lose him then? Before you exchange, post exchange?
Yeah.
So about 3 weeks before we were supposed to exchange, we said, look, we need to know, are you moving forward with us or not? And he told us that, the explanation, and we said, okay, that's fine. No, no hard feelings. It is what it is. But he did actually turn around, and he's a great guy, to be honest. He's a really successful guy, and he turned around and said, well, prove me wrong with this one, make this work, and if it all stacks up, then I'll invest in your second, third, fourth deals. Let's go, but just not this one. So we left on really good terms, and he's very happy to stay in contact with us, which we have.
Yeah.
So that was nice that we built that relationship, and I genuinely believe that success in this industry is a lot around the network in the community and the relationships you can build. It's very much a people industry.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not done this on purpose.
Yeah. But the big problem was we had 3 weeks till completion and no money.
What happened?
So we were like headless chickens. We were on social media. We were going to network meetings. We were ringing everybody we possibly could think of that had money. And eventually we found somebody, but it was just too late. Like the property itself, we was getting a lot of pressure from the agents and the actual seller. So 2 weeks into buying the house that had no chain, they decided to buy another house and create a chain.
Brilliant.
So we were just like, great, thanks for that. But they were buying a new build house that was like on schedule. You've got to move in on this date. And then this other company that had built the houses, they do like a break, like a break clause type thing, and said, that's all right, if they don't complete, we'll just buy the house all cash and then we'll sell it on to them. But there was no guarantee we would get it for the price we'd got it at already. So it could be higher, and if it was more expensive, the deal wouldn't work. So then we had like a week and a half left, and we were just like, what do we do? We were pulling our hair out. There were tears. We were just like, I don't know. Can we just like walk away? Can we just put our hands up and just go, just take it back, and we'll deal with the losses? But we spoke to this is where the real life tribe came in to help us. There's a sourcer in that property group, and she was like, look, I've got some people that want to buy the deal. So we ended up collaborating with her, didn't we?
Yeah.
And she helped us because she's compliant. She's able to source the property on for us. Someone swooped in, all cash, bought the property. Obviously, I was trying to push the solicitors through, and it got turned around within that week and a half. So it was like quickest. Well, for her, the quickest sale ever. And we sold that property on for £10,000, which can't complain about that. So that was great.
We also invoiced for the things that we'd spent. So for the planning and things like that, we invoiced for that, and we charged the £10,000 for the deal,
which we would never have thought of doing or even known we could do if it wasn't for Carly.
Yeah, for Carly. She's someone in the real life tribe. Carly Fremont. Fantastic,
guys. That's a bit of a tumultuous first deal, so I hope your next ones don't go quite that turbulently. But still, you live to tell another tale, and you pocketed 5 figures, right? Yeah. The average salary in the UK is 24 grand. You've done 40% of it in one deal. So well done for keeping going.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, now I know you've got 3 other HMOs under contract so far. But before we get on to that, let's just take a minute to thank our sponsors.
Are you looking for an effortless HMO mortgage experience? If that's a yes, there's only one place to go: www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk, the UK's #1 specialist HMO mortgage broker. They're so specialised that they don't do anything else. HMO mortgages, HMO remortgages, and HMO bridging. That's it. They have access to every HMO lender out there, and even some exclusive products not available to other brokers. With lightning fast service and A1 communication, they're easily the best HMO broker in town. So to experience HMO lending made easy, go to www.thehmomortgagebroker.co.uk today.
Okay, so fast forwarding to the current day, tell us what you've got going on, guys.
So we, after the first deal, it did put us off a little bit. And we felt a bit hurt, we were a bit wounded, and we left it for
wounded at 10 grand.
It was the stress and concern that came with it, I think.
I mean, for us, money's great, but obviously it's the experience behind it. But we had a serious chat, didn't we, and said, look, at the end of the day, it's given us so much like learning, and it's helped us understand the process to like its worst ever level, I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed.
And now we just know what to do better next time. So we ended up venturing out of Loughborough and moving more towards Derby area, and we come across, it took us a while, but we come across another deal. It's perfectly located. It's right next door to Rolls-Royce, and also in between Bombardier. So fantastic location for all the contractors there. And there are always in demand of houses. So it's good news for us. And that particular one is another 3-bed, but we're turning that into a 6-bed. It's having an extension put onto it as well, just a single story at the back to create 2 more extra bedrooms. So the downstairs will have 3 en-suited rooms, and then the upstairs is going to share a big bathroom. And that one you've not seen yet.
No, I've not seen it. No, running away without me.
Because at the time we're juggling 2 businesses. So Jay was staying at home working on the marketing side, whilst I was off doing some viewings. And then you come across a beast, didn't you?
Yeah. So we'd had a mentoring day, and when we came back from that, I was in this mindset of must find deals. So I was there on Rightmove having a look around, and I found out this little crazy way that you could identify a very specific area on Rightmove rather than just a circular area. And I did that, and then instead of looking for just 3 bedrooms that are below a certain amount of money so that I can turn it into a 5 or 6, I just left the room number open. And I came across, I think it was a 5-bed house, and I looked at it, and it was just under 200,000, and it'd been reduced, and it was half residential, half commercial, and it was an old working men's club, or like a social club. And I looked at it, I showed Naomi, and I said, look, this looks like we could probably make quite a few rooms out of this. What do you think? And Naomi looked in, she's like, call it now and book it in. So we rang the agent up, said, we might be interested in this. And
good job.
Went to have a look at it, and
it's
a wreck, but it has massive potential. And I think because it's such a wreck, it's putting a lot of people off. And it was previously on auction, it was sold at auction before, and I think the person that bought it, you can see, has started to do work, but there's holes in the roof, holes in the floor,
a bit off more than he can chew.
And I think he's realized that this is too much, so he has then sold it at an even further reduced rate. We looked at the roof, because the holes everywhere, we've negotiated it further down, so negotiated a further 15,000 off the price of it. And then we've had that accepted, so we're now seeking investment for that, although we have met 2 investors with potentially £900,000 between them to work with us on that, which should take our grand total of investment raised to just over 1 million, which is great news.
Pretty good going since February. Let's talk about that deal, because one of our normal questions is your single best HMO investment to date. So let's talk about the purchase price you've got this one on at, the time period for the refurb, and what it's going to be worth at the end, and what it will cash flow you. Just give us a flavour.
So the primary strategy of what we're going for, so we want to turn it into a HMO. We have estimated, based on the floor plan, we can get 15 rooms out of it, and that is with having 3 communal areas for all floors.
Yeah.
And these are like, I think they're about 25 square feet kitchens, plus like little areas where they can just chill out. So that is probably the minimum number of rooms that we can get. We could get more, but I want to be able to make sure they've got somewhere nice to stay and have, bit of a chat. And the purchase price for this one was 165,950, and the done up value for this will be it's around about 750,000. We might get more depending on mortgage rates, depending on the way of the market.
And what's your refurb cost?
So the refurb cost is we've estimated 180,000 for the refurb cost.
So 165 and 180.
Yeah.
And it's going to be worth 700 plus.
Yeah. Maybe.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Again, these are all rough numbers. We will know more once we get into it, but we've estimated a profit from that as well of around about 100,000. So that will be complete profit to us and obviously our investors. Depending on what investment we go with, and it's due to net cash flow, per month, between £3,000 and £4,000. So that's great. I mean, every single month, that's awesome. So.
It's more than the average salary isn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people were put off because of the area as well. You obviously get a lot of people with different opinions of areas and stuff like that, and think, oh, well, that's a bit of a rough area, or you're not going to get it there because of this or this and this and this. But we know people that's got a HMO literally round the corner. It's huge and it does really well. And there's another one as well, isn't there? There's quite a few around that particular area.
Quite a few HMOs, and the area, I think back in the day it was a questionable area, but even so, this is right on the outskirts of it, next to a nice park, and then a short walk away from a train station and a hospital.
And the city centre.
And the city centre. So it's just, to me, that's perfect. And then there's successful HMOs all around it.
Yeah.
And we've worked our numbers out at like worst case rental scenario.
Yeah.
And HMO is just one of our strategies. We've got 2 others that we could potentially run with it.
Yeah.
So we're pretty confident with this one.
We always make sure we have 2 exit strategies for all of our properties as well.
Brilliant. Sounds like a pretty good deal, guys. I'm very impressed. Next up, this question is about one significant mistake that you've made so far. And I know you've already got a good story, especially about the first deal, but one significant mistake that you've made in your HMO business that by sharing with the audience, you might help other people avoid.
Yeah, okay. So again, the mistake we made comes as part of our first experience with the HMO in Loughborough.
Yeah.
We found this investor. We met him, we took him to the house, we even had drinks with him. We met his friends and all this sort of stuff, and we had this great relationship.
It's like a new boyfriend.
Yeah, it was. We had this great relationship and everything was going great. And then, like we said, 3 weeks before, he pulled out, and we were just left scrambling around. I mean, as it happened, we came across probably 6 or 7 different investors, which we got down to 2 investors, but then just timescales didn't allow us to complete with that.
Yeah.
But the biggest lesson that taught us was never stop advertising your deals, ever, until there's some level of commitment in terms of financial towards you to the deal. Do not stop advertising. And if you're questioned why you're still advertising the deal, then the obvious answer is, well, this isn't the only deal we're going to have. We're looking at really growing and going at a good rate here.
Yeah.
If you want to jump in on other deals and you've got more funds that you can, then great, we'll stick with you. However, if you don't, then obviously we're going to build relationships with other investors as well. And this is just a deal we have on at the moment. So this is secured with you, but other deals that are similar to this, we will look to work with other investors on that basis. So just keep advertising, never stop.
And I think with investors as well, a little tip that we got told is to always make sure that you have some sort of activation agreement or fee in place. So with the investor, you just basically, you have a number. Ours is £5,000, and that is your activation fee to secure the deal with yourself. So in that way, they either get that money back if something happens to the deal that's not our fault, or if they decide to pull out later on, then they don't get that money back. So it also helps us with any costs that we need to cover for any solicitor fees, stuff like that. So a good tip that we got told, and it's been like our mantra, hasn't it? We've literally lived by that now. It's like, whenever we get investment, can you commit to this fee? If you can't, then you need to leave. Do you know what I mean? in nicer ways. We say it nicer than that, but that's the general gist of it, and it works, because it does help you weed out the tire kickers. And show you the really committed ones. Because if they can't give you that money up front there and then, how are they supposed to give you 100,000 plus in 2 months' time? So it just shows their commitment.
That's a really good lesson for our audience, actually, because there are plenty of good deals out there and there are plenty of good investors out there. But in property, we all know that there are plenty of people who talk a lot and don't do much. Yeah. So it's a really good lesson, and I really like that activation fee methodology. I think that's something that the guys that are listening to this can really think about using. Naomi, Jay, let's talk about your I know you got 3 deals on the table. Let's talk about your portfolio plans for the next 12 months. Have you got a number of an equity you're trying to achieve, or is it number of rooms? Tell us what your goals are for the next 12 months.
So for the next 12 months, we want over 40 units or over £2 million portfolio. And we are, based on what we've currently got right now, halfway there already. And we're not even 6 months in. So that's great.
Fantastic. So do you have to do any more deals, or how many more deals do you have to do you think, to reach that target?
So I think the 15 bed obviously helped with that. It helps us get to where we are now. I mean, if we get another one of those, great. But we're probably looking at around about another seven houses to help us get to that, between 7 and 10 houses to help us get there.
Yeah, we have got other deals that are in the pipeline, but they're just not secured with us yet. So we're speaking to someone for a stack of eight flats. So they're not HMOs, but there is a potential to turn that, if we wanted to, into HMOs. So there's that. And then there's a couple of people speaking to us about land developments as well, and building property to hold and keep as HMOs. So that has potential as well. Plus
we've also had conversations with a guy who has a 16-bed house in the centre of Leicester. So, and it's literally like you can see the town centre city centre from the window. So yeah, if we get all those on, then we've achieved our target pretty quickly.
I forgot about that one.
I think we'll have to do a follow-up interview in 12 months' time and see how you got on.
Let's do it.
Okay, apart from building the portfolio, is there anything else that you're up to in property or outside of property that you'd like to share with HMO Nation?
Yeah, so we obviously still run our brand coaching and strategic marketing consultancy, as I said, called Empire Consulting. We still continue to work with people in property trainers, but we also work with any thought leaders, so coaches, authors, speakers, trainers, and we continue to do that and to help people. And that all came about from a bit of my background, and then Naomi started to open up about how hers was quite relevant to that as well, because I've written a book called The Anxious Entrepreneur, and it's about helping people to start a business in spite of fear, funds, or inexperience. And the idea was that because I suffered with the social anxiety when I was younger, I wanted to stop people from, not necessarily stop them from experiencing that, but stop that experience from holding them back from doing what they want to do. Because it was until sort of 17, 18, 19 that I really held myself back and didn't do the things I wanted to do. So I wrote the book to help people do that. And then I met Naomi, and we went through our own experiences together and started to share that, and that's what started the consultancy with each other, with a mission of helping people to create a life that adds positive value to the world. So that's something we've got going on. Dog walks with a dog, we love doing that.
Always good to share.
Yeah, we're dog obsessed, so we love our dog. We're just thankful that she's not barking outside now, because
You're jinx it now.
Yeah.
Don't jinx it. Okay, last few questions. What advice would you give current HMO investors that are already in the HMO market?
I would say, don't think that your past experience in investing is enough to keep you in the game, because there's a lot of new people coming to the market, and there's a lot of new knowledge and new information that's making its way as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't continue getting educated, you don't continue learning, you will very quickly fall behind, and what you once knew will not become irrelevant, but it will become less effective. Because I know of people that are new to the game, new to property, new to HMOs, and they are charging, you know, £150, £200 a month more than the people that are experienced. Their rooms are full, and the experienced people's rooms are not. So, you know, new people are saying it's great, everything's going great, and then the experienced people are saying the market's falling apart. You know, this area is saturated, and I think it's just a case of, don't rely on just your past experience, because things evolve, and they evolve very quickly.
Yeah.
And if you don't stay at the top of the game, you'll either fall behind or fall out of it.
Yeah. Definitely. I think we've had it ourselves from people that have had, I've got 20 years experience, and it's like their portfolio size, you know, for an experienced investor that's been there for 20 years, it's not very big. And I think for people like that to sort of like call others out, it's also not fair. So yeah, definitely for current investors, no matter where they are in their stage of their journey, still keep educating yourself, because it changes so quickly and so often.
Got it. And how about any advice for people maybe 6 months ago, like you felt, looking to get into HMO property for the very first time? What advice would you give them?
Get a mentor.
Yeah.
The short and simple of it is, get yourself a mentor.
And don't be cheap about it either. Like, don't scrimp out, and don't be worried about the price of how much somebody costs. Obviously, don't go out of your budget if you can't physically afford it. But don't let the price of it put you off. If the results are there, and you can see that people in there are helping each other out, and it's a no-brainer, because you're going to make your money back from that mentorship, well, within one or two deals, 100%.
Yeah, and do your own research, I think, is an important thing to do, because I see a lot of adverts of people on Facebook and YouTube, things like that, people saying, I'm training this strategy and I'm training another strategy, and you look at the comments and just the amount of hate and negativity that's all bred from skepticism. But then it's just that it's just that crowd mentality that one person says, oh, it's a scam, it doesn't work, you're an idiot if you invest in this, and then everyone else says it because of that comfort zone of saying it and adding in. And I just think, to have an opinion, you need to have experience.
Yeah.
For it to be a valid opinion. Otherwise, it's just
valid opinion.
It's just shouting shouting hate.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that I think, what do you know really? But then you listen to it yourself, you look at what they're teaching, and you think, actually, this person's got some good advice, some good information. I was just being influenced by the hate that I saw in their comments. So I think that's a big thing to do. First of all, get a mentor, but in choosing your mentor, do your own research. Even to go as far as ringing the company up and saying, look, these are the comments I'm seeing. This is how I'm feeling about you right now. Change my opinion.
Yeah.
And they will.
Yeah.
They honestly will, because they are there to help. Yes, they want to make money, because you have to make money. Your cup has to be full in order for you to fill up the cups of others. But they're giving the knowledge and sharing their knowledge, because there's enough property in the world for everyone to invest. Or everyone can, just not everyone will. But for the people that want to, there's enough out there. It's just a case of going for what's right for you and the strategy that works for you at that time. Your financial status, how risk averse you are.
I think with that as well, a lot of people always say the same thing. It's like, well, there's so much knowledge out there on the internet that you can get for free. Why do I need to come and listen to you speak? And it's true. There is. You can find everything you need to know online. But the only problem with that is there's no experience to back it up. So I could read something online. In fact, we did, and it didn't help us at all because it didn't happen. Like the experience that we had, we couldn't replicate that. And I think when you're surrounded by those people, because obviously you get access to Facebook groups, or you might join a mastermind, or it might be like a group thing, or it might be a physical face-to-face meeting that you end up going to, the experience that you hear from other people will help you in your journey. And I think that's what's so good about our particular mentorship, that there isn't anything that we've asked that hasn't been answered.
Yeah, the community is insane.
And
that's a big part.
Yeah, and I'm sure loads of people that out there that do property training have that similar sort of, community of people. But it is, like you said, it is about doing your own research, but definitely get advice and get some guidance from other people, a mentor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer that people come for the knowledge, but they stay for the community. And if the person you go to has that knowledge and the community, which equals support group, then you've made the right choice. Yeah. And that's what we feel.
Love it. Get a mentor, get the knowledge. Can't say fairer than that. Guys, before we sign off, and I've really enjoyed this story, I'd like you to recommend one great HMO resource or book that you'd like to share, and then let HMO Nation know how they can connect with you.
So the book that stood out for me, we've read quite a few because, as I say, we went heavy into it when we started learning about property, but I think Property Magic by Simon Zucchi. And yes. If that's how you pronounce his surname, still don't know. And I think we went to a PIN meeting where that book was given for free, but we'd also randomly purchased it a few days before. And that book it really breaks everything down. It makes everything understandable. And I think what he delivers in that book is what most people will deliver in their free one-day events.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of it anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Super. And how about if HMO Nation want to connect with you, how can they do that?
So there's two ways. Through our on the property side of things, it's empirepropertyuk.com. And then on our marketing side of things and the branding side of things, it's empire-consulting.co.uk.
We've also got social media as well.
Yeah, we'll make sure we link you up in the show notes page so everyone can get in touch with you via the website. Jay, Naomi, thank you for sharing your journey. We salute you. Let's get an HMO high five.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
See you again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Guys. Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this and want more informational, educational and inspirational HMO property content, then please hit the subscribe button and give us a like. See you next time.